All right, today we're diving into a business story that is just wild. It stretches across more than a century, bounces between completely different industries, and it's all driven by 5 generations of the same family. We start in the forests of the Pacific Northwest and end up at the absolute cutting edge of modern healthcare. And it all boils down to one really intriguing question. I mean, it sounds like a trick question from an MBA exam, right? How in the world do you go from chopping down trees to deploying artificial intelligence in senior living? Well, the answer is way more fascinating than you'd think. Because at the end of the day, this isn't really a story about changing what you do. It's a story about taking a core belief, this century-old idea of long-term stewardship, and applying it to one of the biggest challenges we face today. So, to really get what makes Merrill Gardens tick now, we've got to rewind the clock, way back, all the way to the 1890s, when the company's core identity was forged among the massive timberlands out in Washington state. Okay, so the story kicks off in the 1890s with the R.D. Merrill Company. Their vision wasn't just to harvest trees, but to manage the forest for the long haul. Now, let's fast forward 100 years to 1992. The family makes a brilliant move. They bring in a banker, Bill Pettit, to help them diversify. And that one decision, you guys, it changed everything. A year later in 93, Merrill Gardens is born with a single community in Seattle. And the idea just took off. In only 5 years, they blew up to 27 communities. They were officially a major player. And this quote right here, it's basically the company's entire philosophy in a nutshell. R.D. Merrill was all about making smart business moves, but he was also a pioneer in sustainable forestry, thinking about the future. This dual mindset, being both aggressive in business but also compassionate and long-term focused, became the bedrock for everything that came next. Okay, now here's where things get really smart from a business perspective. In 2010, they split the company. They created Pillar Properties to handle all the real estate stuff, buying land, building, owning the properties. And this was so clever because it let Merrill Gardens focus on just one thing, being the absolute best at running senior living communities. The two companies worked in perfect harmony. The operator knew exactly what residents needed, and the developer could build it just for them. So, by the early 2010s, Merrill Gardens is a big deal. A really big deal. And when you're that successful, the playbook says one thing: get bigger. But Merrill Gardens, they were about to make a move that made absolutely no sense to anyone on the outside. By 2013, they were at their peak, running 56 different communities all over the country. By all accounts, they were crushing it, following the script, growing just like you're supposed to. They were on the right track, or so it seemed. But get this. Instead of going out and buying another 10 or 20 communities, they did the exact opposite. They took a hard look at their huge portfolio and decided that bigger wasn't actually better. And they made a move that just stunned the industry. They sold off their stake in 38 of their communities. That's almost 70% of their business just gone. Overnight, they went from 56 locations down to a core group of 26. From the outside, it looked like they were collapsing. But on the inside, it was a genius move. As their president, Tana Gall, put it, this wasn't about getting smaller. It was about getting smarter, faster, and ready for what was coming next. So what was the logic here? Well, here's the deal. They knew the future was all about technology and data. Trying to upgrade all 56 of their properties would have cost a fortune and taken forever. But by focusing on just their 26 best communities, they could roll out a brand new state-of-the-art system in just 18 months for way less money. Oh, and that sale? It gave them a $173 million war chest to pay for it all. It was a huge, brilliant gamble. So now they've got this sleek, modern system and a ton of cash in the bank. Merrill Gardens was perfectly positioned to tackle the next massive challenge in senior living, a problem that, honestly, most of the industry was completely ignoring: affordability. And that problem has a name: the forgotten middle. We're talking about millions of seniors, people like our teachers, our firefighters, who save their whole lives but just don't have enough for the $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 a month that most senior living communities cost. They were completely stuck in the middle with no good options. And look, this isn't some small, niche problem. The number of these middle-income seniors is on track to double by 2029, and more than half of them simply can't afford the options out there. The numbers were screaming that a crisis was coming. So Merrill Gardens' answer to this: a whole new brand called Truewood.
And the idea was, frankly, revolutionary. Instead of that high, all-inclusive price, Truewood aimed for a much more manageable number. And they did it by completely reinventing how a community is run, not by cutting corners on care. They got rid of separate jobs for every little thing and created a universal worker, and they let residents pick and choose the amenities they actually wanted to pay for.
And this is the secret sauce, the universal worker, or what they call a resident experience partner. Instead of one person to serve food, another to clean, and another to lead activities, these reps are trained to do it all. It's way more efficient, sure, but it's also just better. The staff get more variety and a real chance to grow, and residents get to build real relationships because they're seeing the same few friendly faces all day long.
Okay, so cool new business model is great and all, but the real test of a company, right? It's how they handle a crisis. And in 2020, the entire world was about to face the ultimate test.
For senior living, the pandemic was more than just a health crisis. It was a crisis of human connection. The lockdowns that were meant to keep residents safe also created this terrible, dangerous risk of social isolation.
So what did they do? Well, they fought back on every front. They brought in technology, installing 1,000 Google Nest hubs so residents could see and talk to their families. They doubled down on their values, raising money for local relief funds. And, critically, because they're a private family-owned company, they didn't have to answer to Wall Street. They could ride out the financial storm without the panic that hits so many of their competitors.
And then, after the pandemic, came the massive labor shortage. And this quote from the president, Tana Gall, it just says it all. While other companies were scrambling, she was literally walking into closing retail stores to recruit great service-minded people who were about to lose their jobs. That's not sitting in a boardroom. That's real boots-on-the-ground leadership.
So that brings us right up to today. After navigating 130 years of change, a massive pivot, and a global pandemic, what does that little timber company founded by R.D. Merrill actually look like now?
Well, what they've built today really stands on 4 big ideas. It starts with giving residents control, like with their Anytime Dining program. It's powered by incredible technology, like AI that can help prevent falls. But the glue that holds it all together is a powerful company culture of yes, you can, and a real, genuine appreciation for the people who make it all happen every day.
In that culture, it's not just some poster on a wall, it's real people, like Danya Moreno, their hero of the year. Get this, Danya was an amazing caregiver for her residents, and at the same time, she was also caring for her own mother, who worked at the same community and was starting to have memory issues. I mean, it's just a beautiful story that shows you how deep that sense of family really goes.
And this is what all of that hard work, all those tough decisions have led to. From that one building back in 1993, they're now running about 70 communities across 20 states and even in China. They're caring for around 7,000 residents with a team of 4,000 people, balancing that high-end Merrill Gardens brand with their game-changing Truewood brand. So it leaves us with this one big, fascinating question. As we all face this silver tsunami, this massive global aging trend, the story of Merrill Gardens makes you wonder. Maybe the most innovative, futuristic solutions won't come from a brand new tech startup, but from the timeless wisdom of a family that learned its most important lesson more than 100 years ago by simply planting a tree.